Welcome back to Insight. We're here in the Sweeney Studios with Dr. King, and we want to talk about this whole notion of electronic medical records and audit trails, which sounds very CSI, but I can play a huge role in what you're trying to do as a lawyer.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the electronic medical records. Are all my records electronic now?
For the most part, in most locations. There are still some things that are done on paper, but typically even things that are done on paper are transitioned to the electronic medical record. So for example, if a doctor takes some notes or hand writes something, eventually what will happen is it'll get scanned into the computer and then be a part of the electronic medical record.
And so when you assuming there's a malpractice case, you're looking at those records to help you determine if there was legitimate malpractice?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, the number one thing that we do is to get the electronic medical records. The electronic medical records are really the one thing that is the core of the evidence when it comes to medical malpractice. Every person has their story. A doctor might have his story, the patient might have his or her story, but the electronic medical record is really the evidence, the proof of what really happened.
So what's the audit trail mean then as far as looking at those records?
So interestingly, in the electronic medical records, there's a lot going on in the background that the user doesn't even know. So when a nurse or a doctor is entering information into the computer system, they don't see everything that's going on behind the scenes. For example, every time they log in, every click they make with the mouse, every time they view a lab study or a pathology study, anything they do is traced and is recorded and kept in a central database within the hospital or the clinic. And all that stuff is saved and is accessible if we want to look at it. So is it susceptible to being changed? I mean, is that something that could happen? Is that something you can look for? Absolutely. In fact, it does happen. I don't think it's that common, but it does happen that people change medical records. There are some legitimate reasons to change a medical record. Maybe you forgot something and you just want to put it in. But sometimes there are actually times where people will try to remove something to cover themselves and to hide something. Mm-hmm. That does happen, and we can trace every single bit of that. So would there be those things, I guess my records would be one thing. You could look at all the different doctors that may have had interactions with me or all the medical professionals, but then can you look at the doctor away from like something attached to my name? Anything that's attached to your chart, we can look at. All right. So we can see if an administrator got in there, for example, to look at your chart just to see what happened. We can see every action that the doctor took. We can see every time that a nurse charted your vital signs or anything on you. It's all recorded, and we can access all of it pertaining to your medical record. So you've done that, though, where you've encountered altered medical records, and I'm guessing judges, juries, people don't necessarily like those stories. Right. Those cases frequently settle before they make it to the courtroom, interestingly. But yes, we have seen that. And is there a way that I, as a patient, can keep my own medical records, or is that something that I can't have access to things as in-depth as you would be able to acquire? You are actually allowed by law, by federal statute, you are allowed to view your medical record the same way that the doctors and the nurses view it. In order to get this special audit trail, to see that behind the scenes stuff, then you really have to get more savvy, and that's when you really would need an attorney. Okay, and again, if somebody thinks they have a case, the initial consultation with you is absolutely free. Absolutely. So again, just head on over to SweeneyLaw.com if you'd like to find out more, and let the professionals, someone in this case who is a doctor and a lawyer, look at your case and tell you if you have a case. We'll be right back on Insight.